Have you ever stopped to think about what truly matters as you grow older? When I made the decision to move into a nursing home at the age of 81, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what my life would be like. After all, I had lived a long life, full of experiences, and I assumed I knew what to expect as I entered this next chapter. But as the months passed, I quickly realized that aging is not as predictable as it seems. It's a journey full of unexpected twists, some uplifting, others challenging, and some that have completely reshaped how I view life itself. After spending a full year in a nursing home, I have learned so much about aging, resilience, and the human spirit. And in this video, I want to share with you 7 powerful lessons that I have gathered along the way. These insights could be exactly what you need to help you or someone you love navigate the aging process with more wisdom, compassion, and grace. Some of these lessons may echo what you've always suspected about growing older, while others might surprise you or even challenge your current way of thinking about aging. I promise that by the end of this video, you'll have a deeper, more nuanced understanding of what it means to truly age well, and perhaps you'll see the journey ahead in a completely new light, one that is filled with more hope, purpose, and joy than you might have expected. Stay with me until the end because the final lesson is the one that has had the greatest impact on my life, and it could change the way you view your own future in ways you never imagined. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you enjoy this video, please type 1 in the comments. If you don't like it, type 0 in the comments to let me know so I can make better videos for you. Now let's get started. Lesson 1. Loneliness is a choice, not a life sentence. When I first moved into the nursing home at 81, I braced myself for the loneliness I thought was inevitable. My husband had passed away years ago. My children were grown and busy raising families of their own, and most of my lifelong friends had either moved far away or left this world altogether. I believed solitude was simply a natural part of aging, like wrinkles or slower steps, something to endure, not escape. But over the past year, something profound happened that reshaped the way I think about loneliness. I realized that it's not a fixed state. It's not something that happens to you as much as it is something you choose, even if that choice is unconscious. I began to notice a pattern. There were 2 kinds of people in the home. Those who sat alone in their rooms day after day, staring at the same 4 walls, waiting for a phone call or a visitor that rarely came. They wore loneliness like a second skin. And then there were others, people who, despite having similar stories of loss or distance, made the brave decision to engage. They smiled in the hallways, joined community activities, shared meals at crowded tables, and asked others how their day was going. The difference between the 2 groups wasn't age or health or background, it was mindset. One woman in particular changed everything for me. Her name was Margaret. She was in her late 80s, had no family nearby, and hadn't had a visitor in years. And yet, she radiated happiness. She always had a warm smile, a kind word, and seemed to be part of every social circle in the building. One afternoon, I asked her, "How do you stay so cheerful when you have so few people around you?" She chuckled and said something I'll never forget. "Oh, honey, I don't wait for happiness to find me. I knock on doors, I sit at full tables, and I introduce myself. If I'm going to be here, I may as well be present." Her words stuck with me. That night I sat in my room and thought about all the times I waited for someone to come to me, to say hello, to strike up a conversation, to make me feel seen. But what if I had been holding the key all along? The next day I tried something different. I stepped out of my comfort zone. I said good morning to people I didn't know. I joined a game of cards, even though I hadn't played in decades. I asked people about their grandchildren, their hobbies, their favorite memories. And something magical happened. My world began to open up. Strangers became acquaintances. Acquaintances became friends. I didn't just pass the time anymore. I filled it. I learned that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected, and we have more power over that than we think. Opportunities for connection are everywhere, but they don't knock on your door. You have to go looking for them. So if you're feeling lonely, whether you're 18 or 80, ask yourself, am I waiting for someone to include me, or am I taking the first step to include myself? Because in my experience, the ones who wait often keep waiting, but the ones who reach out, they find companionship, purpose, laughter, and yes, even joy. Aging doesn't have to be a slow retreat into isolation. It can be an invitation to forge new relationships even in unexpected places. Lesson 2. Independence disappears faster when you stop defending it. When I first arrived at the nursing home, one of the most surprising things I noticed wasn't how people aged. It was how quickly they surrendered their independence. Not because they had to, but because they slowly stopped trying. I remember meeting a woman named Elaine. She was sharp, funny, and capable. In her first few weeks, she walked to the dining room, managed her medications, and insisted on dressing herself every morning. But then I started noticing small changes. She began calling for help to reach for her sweater, even though it was just an arm's length away. She stopped walking to meals and started waiting for someone to bring her a tray. Eventually, she stopped leaving her room altogether, except for doctor visits. It wasn't illness or injury that changed her, it was inertia. The more she allowed others to do things for her, the less she did for herself. And the less she did, the more dependent she became. That was a wake-up call for me. I realized that independence isn't something that's taken away from us overnight. It slips away in quiet, invisible ways. It vanishes when we choose ease over effort, comfort over movement, passivity over action. It's always easier to let someone else do it. To bring you water, button your shirt, push your wheelchair, even when you could manage it yourself with just a little more time or effort. But every time you choose convenience over capability, you're trading a piece of your freedom. And once you hand that over, it's astonishingly hard to take it back. So I made a commitment to myself. If I can do it, I will. Even if it's slow. Even if it's frustrating. Even if it's not perfect. I force myself to stand when I'd rather sit. I put on my own shoes every morning, no matter how stiff my fingers feel. I walk down the hall instead of waiting for the elevator, and I carry my own coffee even if I spill a little. These small acts are more than daily chores. They are my defense against decline. They remind me that I am still in control of my life, that I am still me. Aging doesn't suddenly strip you of your strength. It happens through a series of tiny decisions, and if you're not careful, they add up to a life you don't recognize anymore. I've seen it happen far too often. People don't lose independence because they can't do things anymore. They lose it because they stop trying. They forget that independence is not just physical, it's also psychological. It's the confidence to say, I've got this, even when it's a struggle. So if you're watching this from your own home and you're still able to take care of yourself, cherish that, protect it. Push yourself to keep moving, to keep doing, to keep showing up for your own life. Don't let comfort quietly steal your capability. Because once you've let go of your independence, getting it back feels like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. And if this message resonates with you, drop a number 2 in the comments so I know you're still with me. Your feedback truly keeps this channel alive. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next lesson. Trust me, it only gets better from here. Lesson 3. Your health fades faster when your days lose structure. When I first moved into the nursing home, something caught my attention almost immediately. Some residents seemed full of life, alert, cheerful, and engaged, while others appeared to slowly drift into a fog, becoming quieter, weaker, and more withdrawn. At first I thought it came down to physical health. Maybe some people were just more fortunate than others, or had better genes. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized it wasn't about physical strength at all. The real difference was something much simpler, and far more powerful: routine. One of the first people I got to know was a gentleman named Harold, a retired clockmaker in his 90s. Fittingly, his life ran like, well, clockwork. He woke up at 6:30 sharp every morning, shaved, dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt, never pajamas, and sat by the window to read the morning paper with a cup of tea. He took a short walk before breakfast, always greeted the staff by name, and made time each afternoon to write letters to his grandchildren, even though they mostly replied by text. His days had structure, rhythm, and purpose. He wasn't rushing around or filling every moment, but he had carved out meaning and momentum in his everyday life, and you could see it. He was mentally sharp, physically active, and deeply respected by everyone around him. On the other hand, I met others who had let go of routine entirely. Some stayed in bed long after breakfast had been served. They ate sporadically, skipped social activities, and sat in silence for hours, letting the TV drone on in the background. With no clear rhythm to their days, their health, both physical and mental, began to slip. Not suddenly, but gradually, almost invisibly. They grew weaker, more forgetful, and less interested in the world around them. It was as if, without structure, time simply swallowed them up. That's when it hit me. The body and the mind crave direction. Without it, we unravel. So, I made a decision. I promised myself I would never let a day pass without a plan. It doesn't have to be complicated. I'm not scheduling board meetings. But I set goals. Wake up by a certain time, get dressed fully, step outside even if it's just for a breath of fresh air. I eat meals at the same time, dedicate a window for reading or listening to music, and I always try to end my day with some form of human connection, even if it's just a brief conversation in the hallway. Routine, I've learned, isn't about being rigid. It's about reclaiming a sense of control. It's about reminding yourself, and the world, that your time still matters, that you still matter. I've seen this truth unfold time and time again. Those who drift through their days without structure begin to fade, but those who anchor their lives with small, meaningful routines stay brighter, stronger, and more present. They laugh more, they think more clearly, they live more fully. So if you're watching this and thinking about your own life, whether you're 25 or 85, ask yourself, what does my routine say about my health? Are you living each day with intention, or are you letting your hours slip by without purpose? Trust me when I say this, the key to aging well isn't just good genes or lucky breaks. It's what you do today and every day after that. Build a rhythm. Protect your routine. That's how you stay healthy, not just in body, but in spirit. If that message resonates with you, drop a number 3 in the comments so I know you're still with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button and don't forget the bell, because these lessons, though simple, might just change your life. Now, let's keep going. Lesson 4. Your attitude shapes your experience more than your circumstances ever could. When I first arrived at the nursing home, I had a rather common assumption. I believed that the happiest residents would be the ones in the best physical shape, the ones who could still walk on their own, who had regular visits from their family, who were relatively healthy and free from constant pain or limitations. It was only natural to think that way, as our society often places so much importance on physical health and external circumstances when it comes to happiness. But as the months passed, I began to see how wrong I was. Some of the residents who were in the best physical shape, those who seemed to have it all together, were the ones who seemed the most restless, irritable, and unhappy. They often found themselves caught up in complaints, focusing on what they had lost, or on the things they could no longer do. Their minds constantly dwelled on the past, counting their losses like beads on a string, unable to stop measuring their current life against a time when they were healthier, younger, or more independent. Their frustrations grew and seemed to weigh on them every day. On the other hand, I met residents who had every reason to be bitter, people who were living with constant physical pain, with cognitive decline, or the profound loneliness of having outlived many of their friends and loved ones. Yet, despite all the challenges they faced, they radiated contentment, even joy. I often saw them laughing, telling stories, or simply enjoying the company of those around them. Their positive outlook on life was palpable, and it had a ripple effect on everyone they interacted with. It was in those moments that I realized happiness isn't determined by what happens to us. It's determined by how we choose to respond to it. One person who really brought this lesson home for me was Miriam. Miriam is 87 years old, a retired librarian who once had an encyclopedic knowledge of books, history, and all sorts of fascinating facts. But now she uses a wheelchair and has significant trouble with her eyesight. Her family lives far away, and she doesn't have many visitors. Despite these challenges, Miriam is one of the most upbeat, charismatic people I've met. Every morning she rolls herself into the dining hall long before breakfast is served. She hums old tunes under her breath, greets the staff by name, always gives compliments, whether it's about their hair or the earrings they're wearing, and cracks jokes that bring laughter to the entire room. It's contagious. One day I pulled Miriam aside and asked her how she managed to stay so positive despite everything she had lost. She looked me square in the eyes and said with a mischievous grin, "Well, I could either spend my days counting all the things I can't do anymore, or I could celebrate the things I still can. I choose to do the second every single time." Her words resonated deeply with me and stuck with me like glue. I started reflecting on my own mindset and how often I was dwelling on what I no longer could do or the little inconveniences that came with aging. I had spent so much time comparing today to the past, constantly measuring my current abilities against what I could do years ago. But then I realized something. I had a choice. I could continue to focus on my limitations and let those moments define my experience, or I could shift my focus to the things that still brought me joy. A good conversation, the warmth of the sun, the simple pleasure of putting on my own socks without needing help. These little victories, however small they seemed, were worth celebrating, so I created a new practice. Every morning I take a moment to write down at least one thing I'm thankful for and one thing I'm looking forward to, no matter how simple it is. It could be the sunshine streaming through my window, a letter from an old friend, or just the hope of a good meal later in the day. It only takes a minute, but it completely reorients my perspective for the rest of the day. The truth is, attitude is a form of strength, something I didn't realize when I was younger. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing not to let life's imperfections steal your spirit. Yes, aging comes with loss of health, friends, independence, but what you choose to focus on after that loss is where your power lies. That's what shapes your experience. If you wake up every day expecting disappointment, you'll find it. But if you wake up with the intention of finding something good, no matter how small it may seem, it changes everything. It really does. The difference between feeling defeated and feeling alive often lies in the lens through which we view our lives. That's why I say whether it's the sound of a neighbor's laughter in the hallway, a conversation over lunch, or the joy of a quiet moment, these are the things that matter most. Lesson 5. Family visits are unpredictable, but friendships sustain your soul. When I first moved into the nursing home, I believed that family would be my lifeline. I imagined long chats with my children, joyful moments with my grandchildren, and regular visits that would brighten my weeks. In the beginning, that's exactly what happened. They came with smiles, stories, and hugs that made the days feel warm and full. I held on to those visits like they were sunlight in a bottle, but as time passed, life started pulling them in other directions. There were jobs, school events, obligations, illnesses, long drives, and the unrelenting march of busy schedules. The visits grew less frequent, a week turned into 2, then a month would go by. I found myself glancing at the calendar, watching the hallway, listening for the phone to ring, and when it didn't, the silence was louder than anything else. At first I took it personally. I wondered if I'd done something wrong. Had I become a burden? Had they forgotten how much I looked forward to their presence? But then something began to shift in my perspective. I started noticing a pattern in others. The residents who focused entirely on waiting for their families, on phone calls, on weekend visits, seemed to carry a quiet kind of sadness with them. They often sat by the windows, staring out, clinging to hope or memory. And when no one came, that sadness grew heavier. But then there were others. People who had just as few visits, sometimes even fewer, but they were never alone. They were always laughing with someone, joining an activity, or sharing a quiet cup of tea in the lounge. They didn't wait to be remembered. They built community around them. That's when I met Thomas. He was a retired postman in his early 80s, cheerful, wise, and always surrounded by people. He had 2 daughters, both living out of state, who visited only a few times a year, yet he was never bitter about it. He never once complained. I asked him one day, "Don't you miss them?" He looked at me kindly and said, "Of course I do. But I don't measure love by how often someone visits. I measure it by how I feel when they're here, and in the meantime I fill the space with people who are already near." That stayed with me. Inspired by him, I made a choice. I stopped sitting alone at meals and began rotating tables, joining different groups. I attended bingo games and book club, even if I wasn't always interested in the activity itself. What I was really looking for was connection, and I found it. Slowly, day by day, I built a circle of people who asked about my day, shared their stories, and made me laugh again. Here's what I've come to believe. Our families love us, but they can't always be there. And that's okay. It doesn't mean they don't care. It just means their lives are full and complicated, and we were never meant to put all our emotional needs in one basket. Friendship, on the other hand, is something we can cultivate wherever we are. And those bonds, though they may not be tied by blood, can become just as deep, sometimes even deeper. Because the people we see every day, the ones who sit beside us through the mundane and the meaningful, those are the people who truly carry us. So if you find yourself longing for more visits, I encourage you, don't wait. Reach out. Sit next to someone new. Ask a question. Tell a story. Build something real right where you are. Because companionship isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. If you're still watching and this lesson resonated with you, please comment number 5 below so I know you're here. and if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that button and tap the bell so you don't miss more stories and lessons on aging, connection, and living well. Your presence and support mean the world. Let's keep going. The next lesson might surprise you. Lesson 6. The past becomes more vivid, but the present still matters. One of the most unexpected things about growing older is how the past starts to shimmer with a strange, golden clarity. It's as if the years behind you grow sharper while the present sometimes fades into a soft blur. I can tell you every detail about the neighborhood I grew up in, the smell of fresh-cut grass in the summer, the creak of the porch swing as my father read the evening paper, the exact shade of blue on the dress I wore to my high school dance. Those moments live inside me as if they happened just yesterday. But ask me what I had for lunch 2 days ago. I might pause for a moment before the answer comes to me, if it does at all. This phenomenon isn't unique to me. In the nursing home, conversations often circle back to the good old days. We talk about our first jobs, first loves, war stories, family holidays, heartbreaks, and personal victories. The stories are vivid, rich, and full of feeling, and I understand why. The past is where we felt most alive, where we were needed, where we were building something, a career, a home, a family. It was a time of doing, of becoming. But there's a quiet danger in living too long in those memories. I remember a man named Charles. He was 90, sharp as a tack, and could recite full speeches he gave as a young attorney in his 30s. His memory of the past was astonishing, and his stories could captivate a room. But that was all he ever talked about. He never joined group activities. He didn't attend movie nights or game afternoons. He rarely asked others how they were doing. It was as if he'd made peace with the idea that his life had already peaked, that there was nothing left worth showing up for. He was alive, yes, but not really living. Then there was Miriam. She was 82, bright-eyed, always up for trying something new, even if it was just painting a ceramic mug or learning how to use a tablet to video call her granddaughter. She loved reminiscing, too, but she used her stories to connect, to teach, to relate. One afternoon, as we were sitting outside watching the sunset, she said, "I may have more yesterdays than tomorrows, but I'm still here, and today still matters." That one sentence has never left me. Because here's what I've learned. Nostalgia is a gift. It's the soul's way of holding on to meaning, of honoring where we've been and who we've loved. It connects us to our identity and keeps our hearts full. But if we spend all our energy looking backward, we miss what's still happening right in front of us. Even now, even in our 70s, 80s, 90s, there are still memories being made, conversations to be had, laughs to share, meals to enjoy, hands to hold, sunrises to watch. If we close ourselves off to the present, we rob ourselves of those small, beautiful moments that make life rich, no matter our age. So go ahead and tell your stories. Pass on your wisdom. Remember the people and places that shaped you. But don't forget to ask someone how their day was. Try something new, even if it's just a different seat at lunch or a walk down a hallway you usually avoid. Say yes to the present. Say yes to now. Because no matter how many chapters we've already lived through, the page we're on still matters. And we get to decide what's written on it. If you're still with me and this message resonates, please comment number 6 below so I know you're here. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It's one of the best ways to support this channel and help more people hear stories and reflections like this. Now let's move forward together. The final lesson is coming up, and it might be the most important of all. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Lesson 7. Small pleasures make a big difference. As we grow older, it's inevitable. Our world seems to shrink. The grand adventures, the big milestones, the promotions and accolades that once filled our lives, those things fade into the past. What you're left with are the everyday moments. The routines, the little things that fill your time, can start to feel insignificant. But I've learned something in my time at the nursing home that's been life-changing. Those small things matter more than you think. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that happiness must come from big, life-changing events. But here's the truth I've discovered after a year in a nursing home. It's the little things that bring the most joy. I've seen it in the people around me, there's a man named Harry who has a well-worn chair by the window, and every day without fail he watches the squirrels chase each other in the trees outside. To anyone else it might seem trivial, but Harry finds pure joy in it. Then there's Lily, who despite being physically limited finds happiness in something as simple as feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin during her afternoon wheelchair ride. These small pleasures, things that most of us take for granted, are what keep their spirits high. Then there's Betty. She's been in the nursing home for more than 5 years now, with no family left and a slow, steady decline in her health. Yet every single day she manages to find something to smile about. I remember the first time I really noticed her. She was sitting by the window, gazing outside at the birds flitting through the trees. She would tell anyone who passed that she had seen a new type of bird today. She would lean into the warmth of the sun on her face, or pick a few fresh flowers from the courtyard to brighten her room. And when I asked her how she stayed so happy, despite everything, she just smiled and said, "It's the small things, dear. Life's not about the big events anymore. It's about the little things that make me smile." I couldn't help but be moved by her words. As we age, we stop chasing the big goals, success, recognition, adventure, and we start to realize that what really matters are the small, quiet moments that fill our day. It's the feel of the sun warming your skin in the morning, the taste of your favorite food on your tongue, the soft laughter echoing down the hallway, or even the comfort of a well-worn chair in the corner of your room. These little things might seem insignificant in the grand scheme of life, but when you add them up, they become everything. It's something I've started practicing myself, savoring the small moments. The gentle breeze against my face during a short walk, the sound of a neighbor humming as they water their plants, the joy of a good book or a favorite song. It's a simple habit, but it makes a world of difference. You see, the key to aging well isn't about chasing after big moments or extravagant accomplishments. It's about learning to slow down, to notice, and to savor the little things. When we're younger, we're so focused on achieving, doing, becoming. But when we grow older, we realize that life isn't just about those big moments. It's about the quiet, everyday moments that bring us peace, connection, and joy. So, if you find yourself in a phase of life where things have slowed down, take a moment to reflect on the simple pleasures around you. The warmth of a cup of coffee in the morning, the smile of a familiar face, the sound of children's laughter in the distance. These are the treasures that make life beautiful. As I reflect on everything I've learned over the past year, I realize that aging doesn't have to be a journey of decline. Yes, there are challenges and inevitable changes, but there are also opportunities to live more fully than ever before. The lessons I've shared today, loneliness as a choice, the importance of independence, the power of routine, the impact of attitude, the sustaining power of friendships, the need to stay present, and the joy of small pleasures, have taught me that aging, at its core, is about how we live, not just how long we live. So, whether you're in the early stages of your journey or further along, remember that you have the power to shape your experience. It's never too late to build new connections, to embrace the small moments, to find purpose in the present. Life is not just a countdown. It's a series of moments, each one valuable in its own right. Thank you for joining me on this reflection. I hope these lessons resonate with you, whether you're navigating aging yourself or supporting a loved one through it. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to share it with others who might benefit from these insights. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos on aging, living well, and making the most of every moment.